This beautiful Allis Challmers 7000 you see behind me has some issues going on inside the power shift transmission, and unfortunately the only way to fix these issues at this point is to split this tractor. And splitting an open station tractor is relatively simple but still very dangerous. Some ways that we can make this much safer for us is by making a stand to split the tractor on so that the whole front, so this whole section, will roll away from the tractor. I'm going to show you how I'm going to make the stands for this tractor in order to give you some insight on how you might be able to make some for your tractor, just to keep you safe. Now, the intent in our case is to use these jacks that are designed for a really heavy boat. They're good for 2,500 pounds, which this tractor combined, the whole thing, is a little over 7,000 pounds. So when you split it in half and you have majority of the weight obviously in the back end anyways, these are definitely going to be strong enough in our case. But instead of setting it up or making a bracket where they'll mount directly to the frame, what I'd really rather do is build something as an H-frame. And I'm going to show you why real easily. Where there's tractor unbolts, there is a engine plate right here between it. And that engine plate basically is designed to hold the engine and the transmission together and also allow a spot for this frame to bolt in. And it does exactly that. The problem is that whenever you go to split this tractor, you're going to have to support the engine itself somehow. If you didn't, it would try to fall down on you. Being that these plates in the front are about a 1/4 inch thick compared to the 1/2 inch thick plate we have back here, it's definitely not going to do it. And the fact that all the weight of the engine is on this end and torquing down on that. So if we didn't support it, that would make a very big problem and likely end up breaking our mounts up front. So by making an H, right, so we're going to have a piece that goes across right here that connects our two uprights. And the purpose of this H is pretty easy, and I think you kind of already understand the concept. But in my case, since I have to support the engine, these two uprights on the outside, those are going to mount on the outside of the frame. Once those are mounted on the outside back here, I can mount the actual jacks that I just showed you. One's going to go on each side. And then in the middle right here, this gives me somewhere to support the front of the back of the engine so that it doesn't try to bend those brackets at the front and cause any other havoc for me. I'll be able to put shims in there or even a bottle jack if need be. But either way, it gives me something to support that engine with, and that is what I need. Because once this is supported, I can roll the whole front end of the tractor completely away and have it out of my way to work on everything I need to in the transmission area. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to measure the distance from the outside of the frame to the outside of the frame. And we are going to have, looks like 20.5 is pretty well where we're at. So the piece that's going to go between our two uprights making the H, we're going to make that 20.5. A little bit more of an awkward situation is that these holes are farther apart than the wider piece of metal that I have. What I am going to end up doing is I'm going to make my H piece and then I'll make a tab that comes off and make it to where I can connect to another hole. If you only connected to one hole, that'd be really dangerous because it would allow that H to shift forward or backward, or rather pivot, I guess, not so much shift. But it would allow it to shift, and that would be very dangerous for us, especially since the bottom part of our jacks have wheels. It really would make it to where it's going to shift and do whatever it wants, as that pivot point is unrestricted. The next measurement we're going to need is from the top of our frame rail, and we want to go down here underneath of our oil pan, as that would be the biggest obstacle that we would ever have to face. Now, I want to make this H bracket work for this tractor, but I would love for it to be kind of a universal fit, and allowing that extra clearance underneath, in this case for the oil pan, will help us with other tractors that we may have in the future. And we are going to go with 14 inches.
I can take my spacer out now. The spacer, the purpose behind this, once I tack this all into place, and then I decide like, oh, yep, I'm set. This is what I use to set my space to ensure that it doesn't change, because if these ends weren't quite square when they were cut, you know, it might tilt it in or out, or either or really. So it's a good way to check it. Secondly, after I did my tack welds, I went and tried it on the tractor and it looked good. So at that point, I know I need to hold the spacing I have, and this is the purpose of that. I only have a little bit of pressure on it. It's just to make sure that it doesn't try to go in. This is what I was talking about. So right here under the oil pan, I went under here. I wanted to be under a vertical part of it, mainly because that's going to be far more structurally sound than right in the center and pushing up on, say, where the oil drain plug is at. But what'll happen is we'll put 2x6, probably 2. Oh no, it's pretty close. So we'll do a 2x6 or a 2x4. We'll cut it to length so it fits in there easily. And then what we'll do is we'll put some shims underneath of it so that the majority, like the 2x6 or the 2x4, whatever it is, it'll be up against the oil pan, and then under here is where we'll put our shims. What do you consider a good shop dog? Is it one that actually is here under the, you know, the equipment, the tractor, the truck, whatever you're under, you know, kissing your face or right there next to you? Or is it one that would sit right over there on that couch in the far corner and, you know, not be a bother? Asking for a friend. All right, I don't know if you could tell, but we've got her up off the ground just a little bit, just enough to where we can move the tires around. So I guess I'll go over here and show you. So we can spin our tire and stuff like that. So we are off the ground, but not by a lot. And the purpose behind this is literally just to ensure that nothing is going to break. Because what you can see is that, no, I think you can see it anyways. You can see that this is flexing down some in the middle. I don't believe that's going to be an issue because of the simple fact that this is the whole tractor together. Nothing has been split at all, and we're lifting from the center, which means we're taking weight not just off the front, but we're also taking weight off of the back. Realistically, in the case of this tractor, if you look at it, the only weight we really have up here is just the engine. And the engine itself isn't going to be a tremendous amount of weight. I would say somewhere like the whole front end right here, I would guesstimate somewhere around the 1,500 to 2,000 pound range. But we've also got 2 tires on the ground already that are supporting that whenever they're not in the air from these jacks. Now that 2,000 pound estimate is also supported in 4 points, because when the tractor is split, these 2 jacks are going to support, and then also these 2 front tires are going to support, so we can roll it forward and literally separate the tractor right here so we can get to the clutches and everything else that we need to do some work on. If you were doing this on your tractor, it is always, always, always important to test these things. Ensure that it's gonna hold it. Don't just assume it's gonna hold and then get the tractor separated to find out it's not. Far safer to test it like I'm doing. Yeah, way more weight than that thing is ever gonna have to support, but if it supports that, that means it's gonna do just fine when it's just the front end of the tractor. Now, last thing before we go, don't forget, check out the new Juan Deere shirts that we had made. These shirts are proudly made in the United States, unlike a lot of John Deere tractors and also John Deere parts. Stay tuned though, we are going to be splitting this tractor likely in the next video that you guys see. This is what's going to be happening, and then we can get to the bottom of what's going on, whether we have an actual bad clutch pack in our power shift or if it's just an O-ring or some other seal that we need to deal with. Either way, we're going to get it resolved before hay season. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you're going to talk about somebody, talk to God about them.